test. Let's see, does it work? Okay, let's see, how does it work? Does the stream working correctly? Looks like video is fine, everything is fine, and I can do some nice streaming finally. Right, so let's see. Hello there. Okay. Looks like it works. So right now only I watch the stream. So here I want to view. Let's see, so can I add something more there? start with here with the selection, so it's my first stream. Oh, hey, Alex, €4. Yeah, I'm working on a library for e-commerce system, but I just started. Gonna set up a repository and everything for now. Just setting up a stream. Usually I stream on YouTube, but I decided to switch to Twitch. I'll put a link into the description actually for the library repository. So let's see. Oh, I apparently cannot do it. Okay, never mind. I'll put it into the chat. So here is my library, and here it goes into the chat. So we're gonna start from the beginning, right? We're gonna initialize yarn project. Let me also put the chat as a pop out so I can see the chat messages. Okay, it's a little bit weird with all this configuration. Okay, so let me then hide the player. Okay, good. So now I can have a separate one, and now I'm gonna share a URL to the stream itself. So let's see. Good. I have now a URL, and now I have also a chat in a separate window, so I'll just put it always on top so I can see your messages if you're gonna ask me something. And here is my notification on my Twitter account, so I'm gonna notify everyone that I'm gonna stream right now. Okay, stream. Live stream of JavaScript library development. Okay, so the cat is out of the bag, and the link is sent outside, so now I can switch to the window itself. Basically, I just initialized the repository. I didn't write anything in README except the stuff that I've set up in a GitHub account itself. So in GitHub, I just specified the description of the library and the title, and that's all. So for now, it's basically just an empty project. What I'm gonna do first, of course, I'm just gonna init a new project. I'll start with some name of the package, of course. So we'll call it the same as the name of the repository. Backend data resolver. Okay. I can't use slashes in project name. This is weird. Okay, let's see if I can do something like that. Okay, something like that works apparently. Now let's just keep it version 1.0. I'll just copy over this description. Why would I care with larger stuff? Oh, probably, yeah, you're right, Alex. I can just use them at the beginning, so it will be a little bit easier. Okay, this one still stays all the same. Correct. No, it's not a private repository. So everything is correct here, except, right, so you say that I can specify something like that, Alex, right? So I can just put an at in front and it should be a valid configuration for yarn. Okay, that's good. What I'm gonna do now as well, and because I'm gonna add for a development dependency, I'm gonna use Jest. So Jest, it's a unit testing library from Facebook that they use a lot for their React library testing, and I'm gonna use this one for my tests as well. Right, so I'm just going to install it. I'm now then gonna install also Babel, because I'll need to use Babel in order to transpile my ES 2016 code into more browser-friendly variation that will be supported by more browsers than usual, and as well to be able to transpile the code into the Node modules. Okay, so what I start with? Okay, I start with yarn game add -def, and I think it was something like, actually I don't need to use yarn command line here. I just can go here and I can go with Babel, I think core, and then also Babel preset env. This is the one that will take a look at the current environment in which Babel is running, and it's gonna automatically transpile the JavaScript code into the required format. And also, I think that's all what I need. I think I don't need anything else from Jest. Package, and I'm just gonna run yarn itself, so it's gonna install everything, right? And now I think I need to specify something for Babel, because I need to create a JSON file for Babel. I just don't remember how to exactly do it from scratch, but oh, I think it was something like Babel dot something. Oh, it was Babel RC. I think it's Babel RC file. So let's try it out. Babel RC. Okay, and here, yeah, my editor is automatically picked it up. And here in Babel RC, I think I just can specify presets. And from the presets, the first one I think is going to be, yeah, let's just open up a documentation. I'm too lazy to do something. Okay, so where is my proper browser window. Let me just find it out. Okay. Here it is. So I'm gonna be going into just documentation, and I also gonna actually switch it in OBS to be able for you to see my browser itself. So right now it's actually using the wrong browser window, so I'm actually gonna switch it over to the proper Mozilla Firefox. But yeah, I don't see actually the window that it's showing, so this is a little bit weird. Twitch, search, yeah, just documentation. Here is the right Mozilla Firefox window. So I'm just gonna go into getting started, and let's right away take a look at just installation itself. There is somewhere was something about Babel, so here is something that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use the Babel preset, and from the presets I'm just gonna copy paste this piece of code and borrow it inside of my project. So here I'm just gonna adjust it to make it a proper JSON document, because over there it was not Babel JSON format, it was just a JavaScript format. And here I'm just gonna put everything here, and let's see, does it complain about something? I think so, it does. And it complains about redundant commas, right? Yeah, because there should be no trailing commas in JSON. And can I use just some formatting? Reformat file. Yes. Okay, good. Why it complains about it? Incompatible types. How this can be an incompatible type? I think it should be fine. Let's try it out. Let's just try it out. Yarn test. Oh, so I need to run yarn just init. Yes, I'd like to choose to use JS DOM that I'm gonna use for testing, because I'm gonna write a JavaScript library for browser. I don't care about coverage because I'm gonna do TDD, arithmetic with PIRMO calls. No, okay. So configuration is created. It's quite a huge file. Let me clean it up, because I don't like a lot of stuff that is happening here. So I'm just gonna go on and remove all the stuff that is commented. Oh, so basically I just chose the default configuration options of Jest, apparently. So let's see if it runs. Okay, it runs, and it tells me that, yeah, there is nothing to run because I didn't create anything. So I'm just going to create here a directory called src, and here I'm just going to create some file. Let's start with data resolver.js, right? It's just going to be an empty file for now, and here we're going to have data resolver spec.js. So inside of the spec.js, I'm going to put my tests. Let's see, does it execute this file? Yes. However, it tells me that I did mess up with the configuration of the Babel RC. Yeah, so in order to be a valid preset, it should be in one array. Okay, so this is how it was supposed to be. This is what I was missing. Now it at least provides me proper failure message for a test. Right away, let's create a configuration here for just, I'm not sure if it actually set it up just for my project. Okay, so I need to modify then here a configuration, and I need to specify a config for jest, and let's see if now it lets me create a new jest config for running stuff. Okay, does it work? Yeah, perfect. So now we see everything in editor right away. I'm just gonna do some configuration here. Oh, I didn't know that in Jest you cannot have automated tests execution, so this is a little bit weird. Okay, we'll execute it manually then. Okay, so the tests are running, and now we just need to import stuff, so we will need to import date. Yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna call this import. Let's just put some empty stuff here, and we're gonna import from data resolver date. Okay, and here I'm just gonna export default function, and it's gonna receive some arguments as a factory method. And here I'm gonna create some explanation for what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I'm gonna use an arrow function here. So describe the block name, what's gonna be in this block. So what we start with usually when we develop something as a TDD based project. So first of all, I want to make sure that, let's say, our data resolver by default provides some configuration. Yeah, so it receives some configuration and shows some default data. So what can we do here? We can define here something like empty, for instance, placeholder behavior. So we will describe the placeholder behavior. This is basically, oh, I'm actually not in the editor, sorry. I completely missed that I didn't switch my window, so let me make sure that I won't forget about it ever again. I'll put it to be always on top. And here I'm gonna open my editor again. So I'm just creating a new I'm just creating a new block of describe where I describe the placeholder behavior, and now I'm just gonna define my test cases as to-do functions. So I'm just gonna define a to-do for should return placeholder value when, or for instance, yeah, let's rename it to resolver behavior, and what it should do, it should return placeholder value when no cookie markers are set. So this is our first test case. Let me actually reduce a little bit this window because the file names are not that important for us. Okay, so this is our first test that's gonna happen. Let's test it. Everything is running. Okay, so it notifies us that we have something marked as to do that is actually a skipped test case. Then we'll tell that I should execute placeholder, should I execute data resolver when cookie marker is present. So this is another behavior, and let's create another to do. What it should do as well, it should return data from resolver should return data from resolver. Yeah, this is enough to be a valid test case. Oh, actually, let's add here. Should return data from resolver. Oh, actually, it's fine. So here it should execute data resolver when cookie marker is present. So it's gonna just execute a single one. Then we're actually missing here one more test. Should ignore placeholders that do not have a cookie marker. Right, this is fine, and now we also can specify something like return data from resolver for all requested okay, so what it should do, it should return data from resolver for all requested what? For, yeah, naming things is hard in programming, so you always struggle with that one. So it should return data from resolver for all requested placeholder sections, right? And here, otherwise, yeah. So this is, I think, is fine. And now I think I know how can I call this block. So this block I can call like yeah. So this block I can call uncached behavior. So when we don't have anything in the cache. Then the next section that we're gonna develop is gonna be a cache behavior. So it's when we have already something in our cache. So when we're done with uncached part, we'll create something that's gonna be in cache before every single test itself. And here we should define our test cases. So cache behavior. What our cache behavior should do? It should return value from cache if all cookie markers are the same. Okay, that's it. And another one is cache behavior. It should return value from resolver if at least one cookie marker is not set, or is if at least one cookie marker is invalid. Let's name it like that. Then we also will create another test case. It should return value from placeholder if cookie marker, let's say if required cookie marker is missing. So if, for instance, the cookie got lost and we don't have any more value. So let's a little bit explain what are those tests are for. Let's dive deep into this things that we're going to create. So the basic idea here is to create a library that would allow me to create kind of manage data retrieval for an e-commerce application. So I work a lot with Magento platform, and in this platform there's a lot of HTTP calls happening when you are on a statically cached page by the server. So let's say if you're on a product page or a category page, there's a lot of blocks like mini cart that needs to be retrieved from a server, and or for instance the customer logged in widget, or for instance wishlet widget, or any kind of this data that usually stored somewhere in the database on the server. It needs to be loaded into the customer browser, and Magento is not doing a good job at it, right? It actually does a lot of stuff that's completely unneeded for showing this data. So I'm writing a library that would allow me to manage all those small pieces of functionality that are dynamic on a page, and provide for them 3 different states. So the state when, for instance, customer just visited the website, he or she didn't add or logged in or added something to the wish list or added something to the cart. Like the customer just anonymous, just didn't do anything, just browsing the website. We don't need to do any AJAX calls. On the backend, we can just show, in this case, a placeholder value. The other the other use case in this case is when the customer added something to the shopping cart, and in this case we just need to retrieve back only this small shopping cart block. We don't need to retrieve information about the customer login. We don't need to retrieve information about the wish list, because we know there's nothing in the wish list. We know there's nothing in the shopping cart because we notify our JavaScript application through cookies to let it know which blocks have some data on the backend. So then the front-end application can decide, hey, I want to do an HTTP request in order to fetch this data. And we're gonna use those cookies itself in order to also validate our cached storage in a browser. And this is basically the purpose of this library, to provide a way of kind of caching dynamic blocks, and at the same time reducing number of AJAX calls on the browser to the server. So this is basically it. So let's go back to the code base. As you see here, I just created a lot of stuff here related to test cases. So for now, I described probably most of the test cases I'm interested in. Maybe as we're gonna dive deeper into the functionality, there'll be more, and we're gonna add more. So first of all, right, I want to make sure, let's say that before each test, I have a completely empty storage in the browser. I have a completely empty cookies as well. So I'm just gonna create something like before each. So this is a way to execute some piece of the code before every test case. So before each, and here I'm just gonna create document cookie. I don't know how many cookies I'm gonna have. Oh, basically I don't need to stop a cookie, because this one, actually the cookies I'm gonna provide as a dependency is the cookie manager itself. Right, so this doesn't matter much. What matters then is local storage, because this one is completely part of the implementation of the future. So then we need to have like window local storage. We need just to clear it, and window session storage, we need to clear it as well. So before each test case, we just start from scratch, from empty data, and then inside of each of these blocks we can create our own before each that's gonna enrich the data in the browser. Now what we can do here as well, I also really like to have some kind of meaningful document location, because by default the document location is not a really useful URL. And here I just want to create, for instance, some website.com and then /shop, so we can even add some logic here, but I think we won't do it in this specific test case, because we're gonna isolate the cookie management from our data resolver. Okay, so let's see. Is everything going fine? Yeah, kind of, yes. So it should return placeholder value when no cookie markers are set. Okay, so let's start with a simple test case. So first of all, we'll need to create our data resolver. So we'll create this resolver, and we'll use the function itself. So we'll call it data resolver. Let's say factory. And inside of this factory, we're gonna pass some information. So for instance, I also want to create some classes or for instance an object into which I'm gonna store some information about which resolvers have been called. So I'm definitely gonna create a new class, probably somewhere in the bottom. I don't need to create it on the top. So the class is gonna be yeah, this is a little bit badly named. Probably I named a little bit these test cases incorrectly, because our component is called data resolver. However, the thing that loads data from backend is going to be called data loader, right? So this is going to be the data loader is going to be a function that needs to be passed into this data resolver factory. Okay, so should execute data loader when cookie marker is present. This sounds better. Then should ignore placeholders that do not have cookie marker. Yeah, that's okay as well. And should return data from resolver for all requested placeholder sections. From resolver for all requested placeholder sections. So from loader, not resolver. Okay, this sounds better. And should return value from resolver from loader. That sounds right. And we'll call this, actually we're not gonna use class, we're just gonna have a function, however, a function here, and we'll call it fake loader factory. And this fake loader factory is gonna take as an argument data, and data is just gonna be an object with key values, where the key is, of course, is gonna be the code of our data section, and the value, of course, is gonna be the value that's gonna be returned by the fake loader. Okay. That sounds right. And that's, I think, everything what we need, because yeah, it's the only thing that we need to return. Then our fake loader is gonna return us back an array of two values. The first one is actually gonna be the function itself. So the first one is gonna be function that's gonna take as an argument sections. Right. So this is a list of the sections that are gonna be retrieved back, and we're just gonna map each. Yeah, we just can use some nice syntax like that. So those sections are gonna map back the values from, yeah, map. Each value is gonna be the key from data, and we're just gonna return back the value from data. However, we also need to check that it's not undefined. Then we will return data v, otherwise we're going to just return an empty string. So that's how our fake loader will work. It's just going to return the data. This is an actual implementation, that's why it's called fake. And as a second one, we probably want to create const loaded sections, let's say like that. Right, and we're gonna return back a function that's gonna return us back those loaded sections. So it's gonna give us an access to these loaded sections. So, okay, we have to modify a little bit this function because it's gonna have to leave some side effects. So we have to return some data here, and here into the loaded sections we're gonna just push the key. Yeah, let's just name it correctly, section. So this is gonna be our fake loader. And as well, we probably wanna have our fake cookie manager, right? And as an argument, it's just gonna receive cookies. So that should be pretty okay then. So fake loader factory is there, and we already can pass it here. So right, we just pass an empty factory here. We will fill it up with the data later. Let's just specify here an empty object too. Right, and here we can put some implementation for fake cookie manager as well. However, do I need to have cookie manager, or I can just return a function here? Probably I don't need to have a manager, I just can use call it fake cookie retriever, because I'm not gonna set any cookies. I'm just gonna use cookies that are set in the browser. I don't care about setting the cookies, so that should be more than enough. And itself, right, it's just gonna be a function that would return a cookie from cookies. And we don't care about checks here because in case if cookie is not set, we just need to return back an undefined, and then our code should be able to handle undefined properly internally. So here the same thing. The second argument should be fake cookie retriever. So our dependencies are passed as an argument into this function. And now we can go on and configure our data resolver. I expect it's going to have a function called add a section, and let's say the section 1, let's say it's going to be well, let's call it real names like shopping cart. The second value probably, like, we can just call it add, because we don't have to add anything else. We always just gonna add a single object. No need to call it very long name. So shopping cart, add shopping cart. The default placeholder will be your shopping cart is empty. And then the interesting part happens. So we're gonna create a required cookie marker and we will call it cart. So let's say we expect that the cart cookie needs to be set to a specific value in order to be able to retrieve the data for that block. Right, so here we are. Then data resolver adds, and then we'll add what we're gonna do here. So the data resolver add what kind of block we have. Let's say customer account widget, right? So by default it's gonna say as hello guest, and here we're gonna put the customer section, right? And a customer cookie, and then another one on which we're gonna depend on is gonna be, let's say, a wish list, and we'll have it like your wish list is empty. Value itself, well, for instance, let's make it probably not a string, let's make it a proper object. Like if it's a shopping cart, let's say it's gonna be just items empty, total 0, right? So a very simple JSON object for customer account. We'll put here, let's say, name guest, and here we're gonna somehow differentiate it. Maybe we can name it something like liked items, and without totals, right? And here we're gonna put a required cookie called wishlist, and let's see how our test names look like. So we have here should return placeholder value when no cookie markers are set. This is okay because like we have some blocks here. Then we have should execute data loader when cookie marker is set. So then let's say for some of the blocks we're gonna set cookie, for some of the blocks we're gonna avoid the cookie. Okay, so this is good. And then should ignore placeholders that do not have cookie marker. Okay, so this is easy as well, right? So you should ignore placeholders that do not have cookie marker. That's probably understandable. Oh, I think I made some issue here with the test name. It should be not should ignore placeholders, it should ignore loaders that do not have cookie marker. So this is basically means that basically okay, now I see what it's all about, because we have our fake loader factories that provides us the possibility to access the loaded sections, right? So I was planning to make this test like that, so I wanted to make sure that I have I wanted to make sure that I verify the value of the loaded sections variable. Okay, so here is something important, I think, that I also did wrong here. So I should have here a loader as a variable, and probably not a let but const, and then also it should be loaded sections function itself. So this is something that I'm gonna use internally. And fake cookie retriever is looking fine. Okay, and now let's define the data for our loader. So we'll define for shopping cart some data like items, and inside of an item, let's say we're gonna place here item 1 and item 2, and for total we'll, let's say, specify 100. For the customer account section, right? So what we're gonna specify here, we're gonna specify So for the customer account, we're gonna specify here an object. Oh, too much Rust recently. I got used to tunnel definition. Okay, so here is name, and the name is gonna be anonymous. So here it's guest. If it's logged in, we're gonna put something like anonymous here, and then for the wish list, it's gonna be liked items, and then nothing I like. Okay, so seems good enough for me for the test data and for the cookies. So which one I want to make sure that everything. Okay, so here let's also modify a little bit our fake loader. Let's just specify here no data, just to see in the result of the test cases if just a string instead of an object comes through. So we have some test data. We can actually collapse it now. We have our loadable items. Let's also add something like compare, let's say products, and here specify product IDs or something like that, and it will depend on compare cookie. And now we're gonna specify that there's a cookie for card. Let's say it should be 1, 2, 3. For customer, we don't specify cookie. And for wish list, we specify cookie as well, like wish list 1, 2, 3. And here, let's say card 1, 2, 3. Okay, and as well here we are not gonna specify anything else. So only this two should trigger a loading of the data from the backend. So this is basically what we are testing in this uncached behavior functionality, right? Let's see. It tells us that a bunch of stuff. Okay, navigation is not implemented. Okay, so I need to change a little bit the way how I do it here. I think I need just to specify, I want just to replace the current location. I don't want to set and go to specific place, yeah. How can I then specify a URL Oh yeah, I completely forgot, like this one I can specify here. I can only specify it inside of our nice and cool jest config.js. So here we need to specify environment options as far as I remember, and I think yeah, let me switch to the documentation. It should be DOM manipulation. Yeah, configure ingest. Here it is. Configure ingest. So here's test URL. So this is what I need to specify. So this is what I need to specify. So let's go back to the code base. And test URL is going to be this HTTP some webshop.com, and here we're just gonna specify /shop. Okay, so here it is. So for now you see we have a completely empty function. We already created our test plan. We've prepared first reset of all the storages in order to make sure that everything worked pretty well. However, what we see here, like cannot read property add of undefined. Yes, because we don't have yet this add functionality, right? So what we need to do, we need to go into this function and we need to return back an object with this add function. Let's see if it works now. Okay, good. Now, what we probably want to do as well, we also want to create a method called load section, or just load, and here we specify a section as an argument, and it will return us back probably a promise. Okay, so that's I think good, and now we just need to create another method here, and we'll call it process messages or process something. Yeah, so what we can do here, yeah, probably we don't need to process anything because our load method should be self-sufficient itself, so you just need to be able to execute whatever is required. Here we're gonna have a loader and read cookie function, right? So we have two functions. Loader and read cookie. So it should be pretty good. Should return value from loader if at least one cookie marker is invalid. Okay. Okay, so now our tests are just marked as not working. So this is basically two methods that we're going to invoke. We're going to invoke add with section name and so on. So let's start with our first test. So the first test tells us that it should return placeholder value where no cookie marker is set. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna make it proper function. It's actually gonna be an async function because our load method is gonna return us a promise. So we're just gonna use an async test execution here. So we will use data resolver, load, which section we're gonna load. Should return placeholder value when no cookie markers are set, and for which one we don't have any cookie markers. For customer account. So let's say customer account, load, and here we're gonna set await const customer, or we can just set expects awaited loader to equal our nice object name colon guest. Okay, so here it is, and I think it expects not expects. Let's see, does our test run? It runs and it fails. So this is what we were expecting to have, and in nature of true TDDers, we're just gonna return here name colon guest. So basically we're faking an implementation. Yeah, I think it's gonna fail because await should not allow us to use a string. Yeah, this is a little bit weird because I actually wanted to have promise dot resolve. So this is our loader itself, how it looks right now. So now our test is actually, the first test passes. This is good, so we can go on and work on the second one. And what we're gonna put here is it should execute data loader when cookie marker is present. So right now we're actually not gonna test what happens inside of the load. Yeah, I think this one I went too fast with implementation. Okay, I need to add one more test because I think there's not enough tests yet written. So the next one actually, so here's the first one, it should return customer placeholder value when no cookie marker present. Okay, this should be fine. And now we're gonna create another test case that it should return compare placeholder value when no cookie marker is present. So now we have two variations, and here we're gonna have compare products as an argument, and we're gonna have something like expected result as product IDs, and let's run a test. Okay, it fails because the object do not match. And this is correct because I just faked the value here, so now we finally can actually start implementing function here. So there was the first argument was a section, and the second one was a placeholder. So as you see, I avoid to implement anything else except the things that are actually making my test pass. So here we're gonna have a const of sections, probably an object of sections, and each section, from sections, in section we're gonna put a placeholder for now. Like, we don't know what's gonna be the structure of that. Placeholder itself. So okay, here we are. So this is a placeholder. Okay. And what we're gonna do here, let's see what I wanted to do. I wanted to return a value here. So here I specified sections and placeholder, and now I can just return from sections the section itself as a result value. So let's see, does it work? It works perfectly. So both tests are passing. This is quite good. So our tests are slowly driving our functionality to a state of completion of the application, right? So the next one, it should execute data loader when cookie marker is present. For this one, we're gonna use shopping cart, right? So we're gonna expect, probably not await. On expect, we're just gonna await for data resolver load. Let's say shopping cart, and we actually need to specify here as a function, definitely as a function, an async function actually. So it should be an async function that's gonna wait till shopping cart block is loaded. And we will tell that it should execute shopping cart loader when cookie marker is present. Okay, and here we're just gonna trigger this data resolver, and we're gonna, actually we're not gonna trigger anything on the data resolver. We're just gonna verify that our fake loader, right, data, so what it was called loaded sections. So loaded sections, expect loaded sections to equal shopping cart. So now we have a test that's gonna test that when we were invoking this resolver load, it was actually loading both of them, right? So we have a failed test because the array is empty. Let's just test quickly that it actually works. Let's just add some random data here. Oh, actually we can only do it when we implement it, okay. never mind. Let's go and actually start implementing it. I think also the issue there is that our loader doesn't return us a promise. Oh, my bad. Again, my bad. So it should return us promise resolve, because a loader should be asynchronous. It shouldn't be synchronous loader. We don't need to block browser, right? So here we are. It looks a little bit better, and now we finally gonna use this loader itself, and we're gonna call, let's say, yeah, we're gonna put some logic here, right? Or, you know, like, we're just gonna fake it as we should, and we just should use something like that. All right, so it should pass, right? Sections map is not a function. Okay, so that's good. That at least tells us something. So loader that is passed here from the sections. Oh yeah, because here we are. I didn't call it properly, so everything was fine. So what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna pass an array as a section, right? Okay, so cool. So we expected only single value, but somehow we actually received multiple of them, and this is an issue of the test itself, because all this data is initialized in describe, and this is not reset between tests itself. So basically what I need to do, I need to create loader loaded sections, right? Let loader loaded sections, and also data resolver be locally visible variables, and then I need to set up before each here function into which we're gonna pass in all of this initialization process, because of scope. So now we're gonna work with a new data resolver on every single call, right? So now loader and loaded sections are assigned, and data resolver are assigned as well. So now our test should not affect each other, and now actually our test is passing. So now I'm actually gonna expand a little bit on the test here, and I should say that it should execute shopping cart loader when cookie marker is present. I'm gonna also add here it should execute wish list, right? Or actually, wait a second. The issue here is that, right, I wrote the code that made this test pass, but I didn't write any checks, like if shopping cart is actually needed to be loaded, because I didn't check any cookie values. I didn't even access the cookie storage. So what I should write a test about here is that it should not execute customer loader when other cookie markers are present. So we know that the shopping cart is going to be definitely executed, right? But we want to make sure that when we load customer account, that our loaded sections are equal to an empty array, because we know that the loaded sections for customers should be just empty. Let's see. Does it happen like that? No, it doesn't, because I was lazy developer and I didn't implement the functionality correctly, so the test cached for us a problem in implementation. So here you see that the loader looks like that. And now I'm finally gonna access this last argument called required cookies, right? So I'm now gonna add here some values itself, right? So we're gonna have required cookies as an array. However, we need somehow to retrieve it later, so shall it be something different, or I can just get away with just specifying it as an array and then deconstruct it later. Okay, so we have placeholder and then required cookies, and here I'm just gonna set const placeholder as deconstructed array, of course, and required cookies equals to sections section. So looks nice. And here I'm still gonna execute loader section. So let's just see if it still works. Okay, so now, yeah, I don't return the placeholder, so here's what I will need to return back. Okay, so now my tests are still passing, so I did small refactor, and now I finally can proceed into actually making the last test pass. So the last test requires that at least one of that all of the required cookies are actually needs to be set. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna take required cookies and we're gonna use reduce on cookie name, and result is gonna be, yeah, so result and the cookie, and by default it's gonna be true. And here we're just gonna put an if statement and we're just gonna pass it in. And let's actually extract it as a variable. Is or are required cookies satisfied. Are required cookies satisfied, and it should be actually a const, not let. Okay, so here we are. Result cookie, and it should return back result, and read cookie doesn't equal to undefined, right? So we want to load it only in the case if the cookie is not set to undefined, and we see that all our tests are now passing, and this looks quite good. So I'm so far happy with it, and I think it's good for today because it's already almost 1:30 after midnight, so it's 20 minutes past midnight in my time zone, and I'm already a little bit tired, but tomorrow I'm gonna continue working on this small project, so you're welcome to join my live stream. So I hope you enjoyed it, and till the next time.